You're being disrespected. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's in your relationships, maybe it's from people who should know better. And here's what's interesting. You've probably tried being nicer, more accommodating, more reasonable. How's that working out? Niccolò Machiavelli, writing in 16th century Florence, observed something that still holds true today. Respect isn't given for good intentions. It's commanded through specific, observable behaviors. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to break down what Machiavelli actually wrote about respect and power, connect it to modern psychology research, and give you a framework you can apply immediately. This isn't about becoming cruel or manipulative. It's about understanding how respect actually works in human relationships. Let's start with what Machiavelli got right, what he got wrong, and what science tells us about why certain behaviors command respect while others invite disrespect. Who was Machiavelli, really? First, let's clear something up. Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't some dark wizard of manipulation. He was a Florentine diplomat and civil servant who got fired, tortured, and exiled when the Medici family returned to power in 1512. The Prince, his most famous work, was partly a job application. He was trying to get back into politics. But it was also something more interesting. A brutally honest observation of how power actually worked in Renaissance Italy, stripped of the moral pretenses that most political writers used. Here's a direct quote from the Prince. "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Now, before you go trying to make people fear you, understand what Machiavelli meant in context. He was advising rulers on survival in a world of assassination plots, betrayals, and constant warfare. The modern translation. But there's a principle here that translates to everyday life. Respect flows toward those who demonstrate they cannot be easily transgressed against. Not through threats, not through aggression, but through clear boundaries and consistent consequences. Modern research in social psychology backs this up. Studies on interpersonal respect show that people who are too agreeable, who consistently sacrifice their own needs to avoid conflict, are actually respected less than those who assert reasonable boundaries, even when that assertion creates temporary discomfort. What stops disrespect instantly? So here's the Machiavellian principle, updated for the 21st century. Disrespect ends the moment you demonstrate through action, not words, that disrespecting you carries a cost. Notice I didn't say punishment or revenge. I said cost. There's a massive difference. When someone disrespects you and there are no consequences, you don't address it, you laugh it off, you pretend it didn't happen, you've just taught them something. You've taught them that disrespecting you is free. And in human behavior, we do more of what costs us nothing. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel." Translation: people respond to what they observe, not to your internal feelings or unexpressed thoughts. The psychology behind it. This connects to a concept in behavioral psychology called operant conditioning. When a behavior, disrespecting you, produces no negative consequence and possibly a positive one, they get what they want, you back down, that behavior gets reinforced. Dr. Robert Cialdini's research on influence shows that people constantly test boundaries to understand social hierarchies and acceptable behavior. When you fail to enforce a boundary, you're not being kind, you're being unclear. And unclear boundaries invite further testing. So what's the do this once action? Here it is. Clearly and simply. The next time you experience disrespect, immediately and calmly name it, state your boundary, and follow through with a consequence if it continues. Let me break this into components. 1. Immediately, don't wait. Don't let it slide this time. The closer the response is to the behavior, the more clearly the connection is made. Machiavelli understood timing. Whoever believes that great advancement and new benefits cause great personages to forget old injuries is deceived. If you let disrespect accumulate, addressing it later becomes exponentially harder. 2. Calmly, this is crucial. Emotional reactivity signals loss of control. Calm assertion signals power. When you respond to disrespect with anger, you're actually giving away power. You're showing that they can control your emotional state. There's neuroscience here. When you remain calm while setting a boundary, you're operating from your prefrontal cortex, executive function, not your amygdala, fight or flight. This keeps you strategic rather than reactive. 3. Name it. Don't hint. Don't use sarcasm. Don't expect them to figure it out. Say clearly, that was disrespectful, or that's not acceptable, or that crosses a line for me. Machiavelli advised against ambiguity in power dynamics. Make no small plans, for they have no power to stir men's souls. Be clear and direct. 4. State your boundary. I expect professional communication, or I don't engage with people who speak to me that way, or our relationship requires mutual respect. This isn't negotiable. It's informational. You're telling them the terms of engagement. 5. Follow through with consequence. This is where most people fail. They set a boundary and then nothing happens when it's crossed again. Consequences might look like ending the conversation and walking away, reducing access to your time, energy, or resources, escalating to a supervisor or authority figure if appropriate, ending the relationship if the pattern continues. The consequence must be proportional, and you must actually do it. Empty threats destroy credibility faster than no boundary at all. Scenario 1. Workplace disrespect. Your colleague consistently interrupts you in meetings and talks over your ideas. Weak response. Say nothing. Feel resentful. Complain to others later. Machiavellian response. The next time it happens, immediately pause and say calmly, I wasn't finished. Please let me complete my thought. If it happens again in the same meeting, this is the second time you've interrupted me. I'll wait until I can speak without interruption. Then stop talking and wait. If the pattern continues over multiple meetings, the consequence escalates. You speak to them privately, then involve management if necessary. Why it works. You've demonstrated that disrespecting you requires effort. They have to sit through awkward silence and attention. Others notice. Respect becomes the path of least resistance. Scenario 2. Personal relationship. A friend regularly makes dismissive comments about your career choices or life decisions. Weak response. Laugh it off. Make self-deprecating jokes. Try to prove yourself to them. Machiavellian response. First time, that came across as dismissive. I'm happy to discuss my choices, but not in that tone. Second time, we talked about this. If you can't respect my decisions, we need to change how often we spend time together. Third time, actually reduce contact. Be less available. When they ask why, be honest. I protect my energy by spending time with people who respect my choices. Why it works. You've shown through action, not threats, that the friendship has terms. Most people will adjust their behavior rather than lose access to someone they value. Scenario 3. Family dynamics. A family member repeatedly brings up sensitive topics you've asked them not to discuss. Weak response. Engage in the argument, get upset, forgive them because that's just how they are. Machiavellian response. I've asked you not to bring this up. I'm ending this conversation now. Then literally end it. Hang up, leave the room, end the visit. Next time they complain that you're being sensitive, I stated a clear boundary. When it's not respected, I remove myself. That's not changing. Why it works. You've made their disrespect costly. They lose your company, the conversation ends. Most people prefer compliance to consequences. Mistake number 1. Confusing boundaries with punishment. Setting a boundary isn't about making someone suffer. It's about protecting your own dignity and establishing terms for interaction. Machiavelli's advice was for survival in cutthroat politics, but the principle applies to self-preservation in any context. If your goal is punishment or revenge, you've already lost. Your goal is clarity. Mistake number 2. Being inconsistent. If you enforce your boundary on Monday but ignore the same behavior on Friday, you've taught them that your boundaries are negotiable. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the danger of inconsistency in leadership. It breeds contempt. Consistency is more important than severity. A small consequence applied every time is more effective than a large consequence applied sporadically. Mistake number 3. Over-explaining. When you set a boundary, you don't need to justify it extensively. I don't accept that behavior is complete. When you over-explain, you're unconsciously asking for permission. You're negotiating something that shouldn't be negotiable. Mistake number 4. Expecting immediate respect. The first time you set a boundary with someone used to disrespecting you, they'll likely test it harder. This is called an extinction burst in psychology. Behavior gets worse before it gets better. Expect pushback. Expect to be called sensitive or difficult. This is the test. Pass it by maintaining your boundary calmly, and respect follows. Is this manipulation? Here's an important distinction. Manipulation is getting someone to act against their interests for your benefit. Setting boundaries is getting someone to respect your legitimate needs so a relationship can function. Machiavelli wrote for rulers who literally held lives in their hands. You're not a Renaissance prince. You don't need to be feared. You just need to be clear. The ethical application of this principle is simple. Use it to protect yourself and create healthy relationships, not to control or dominate others. Research on healthy relationships consistently shows that clear boundaries and mutual respect are foundational. People-pleasing and conflict avoidance, the opposite of what we're discussing, actually correlate with lower relationship satisfaction and higher rates of resentment. When to walk away? If you've clearly stated boundaries, enforced consequences consistently, and someone continues to disrespect you, Machiavelli's advice is simple. One who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Some people won't respect your boundaries no matter what you do. Your job isn't to change them. Your job is to protect yourself by limiting or ending your exposure to them. The real power of this principle. Here's what actually happens when you implement this once, consistently, and calmly. Most people will adjust their behavior. They'll realize that disrespecting you isn't worth the cost, and they'll begin treating you with the baseline respect that should have existed all along. Some people will respect you more for having clear boundaries. They'll see you as someone with self-respect, and that actually elevates how they perceive you. A few people will exit your life. Let them. Machiavelli understood that trying to be loved by everyone leaves you respected by no one. Your action step. The next time, and I mean the very next time, you experience disrespect, use this framework. Name it immediately and calmly. State your boundary clearly. Follow through with a consequence if it continues. Do it once. Watch what changes. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about finally showing people who you actually are, someone who values themselves enough to require respect. If you found this valuable, let me know in the comments. And if you want more content breaking down historical philosophy with modern psychology, subscribe. Thank you for watching.